The greatest lie Dragon Ball ever told us is that limits are meant to be broken. We have been conditioned by 30 years of anime to believe that if you scream loud enough, the universe will bend to your will. We believe that rage equals power and that every wall is just a door waiting to be kicked down. But there is a specific frequency of silence that occurs on King Kai's planet that deconstructs this lie in an instant. It is the moment Goku unveils Super Saiyan 3, a form that represents the absolute zenith of Dragon Ball Z. This is the form that shook the fabric of the afterlife. It is a form of pure, unadulterated power. He throws a punch that could shatter a moon, aiming directly for the face of a purple cat who looks half asleep, and then the impossible happens. The cat doesn't dodge, he doesn't block. He stops the punch with the tip of a single fingernail. In that fraction of a second, the entire power scaling system of the last 20 years evaporated. The screaming didn't matter anymore. The rage didn't matter. The golden hair was just decoration. We were introduced to a ceiling that wasn't made of glass but of titanium. This wasn't a villain Goku could surpass with a training montage. This was a barrier that was never meant to be broken. To understand why Beerus is the only character Goku will never defeat, we have to deconstruct the fundamental difference between a villain and a deity. Every antagonist Goku has ever faced, from King Piccolo to Jiren, has been a climber. They were beings who sought power or acquired power through mutation and training. Frieza, for example, is a character defined by his desire to rule. As we have seen recently, Frieza spent 10 years in a room of spirit and time, locking himself away in a psychological crucible to sharpen his mind and body. He did this because he needed to bridge a gap. He needed to catch up. Even Black Frieza, who asserted his dominance so completely that it made the last 2 years of power scaling look like a joke, is still playing a game of catch-up. Frieza wants to be the strongest. He wants to be the emperor. He has goals. He has ambition, and ambition implies a lack of something. You only crave what you do not have. Beerus craves nothing. Beerus does not want to rule the universe, he owns it by default. He does not want to be the strongest, he simply is. When you fight Frieza, you are fighting a man with an ego. When you fight Cell, you are fighting a biological experiment. But when you fight Beerus, you are fighting a function of the universe itself. You might as well try to punch a hurricane or put a chokehold on an earthquake. It is a conceptual impossibility. The terror of Beerus lies not in his malice but in his indifference. Most villains in Dragon Ball operate on a spectrum of sadism. We know that the old Frieza, the emperor from Namek, would have tortured his enemies for hours just to hear them scream. He would have blown up the planet just to hear the fireworks. This sadism is terrifying, but it is also human. It is an emotion we can understand. We understand hate. We understand cruelty. But Beerus operates on a frequency that is entirely alien to the human experience. He destroys entire civilizations not because he hates them, but because they annoyed him. He erases solar systems because the food was too greasy or too salty. This capriciousness is far more unsettling than calculated evil. With Frieza, you can negotiate. You can offer him loyalty or value, as we see with his sparing of Goku and Vegeta to use as meat shields in his war against the gods. Frieza is a businessman running an empire. He has a logic you can follow. Beerus operates on a logic that is beyond mortality. He is a cat playing with mice, and he is indifferent to the suffering of the creatures he toys with. There is a moment where he taps a table with a single finger and half a planet disappears instantly. He didn't do it to send a message. He didn't do it to assert dominance. He did it because he was bored. That level of casual power is something Goku can never replicate because Goku is burdened by morality. Goku holds back. Goku cares about collateral damage. Beerus considers collateral damage to be part of the job description. We must also look at the horror of the technique known as Hakai. In the Dragon Ball universe, death has always been a revolving door. Goku dies and he gets a halo. He trains in the other world. He comes back. Vegeta blows himself up and returns a few arcs later. Death lost its sting decades ago. It became a mechanism for travel rather than a termination of existence. Beerus reintroduced the concept of finality. When Frieza kills you, he destroys your body. When Cell absorbs you, your biomass fuels his evolution. But when a god of destruction raises his hand and speaks that single word, he is not killing you, he is deleting you. The Hakai erases the soul. It removes the target from the timeline entirely. There is no other world waiting for you. There is no King Yema's desk. There is just the void. It is the narrative equivalent of formatting a hard drive. We saw this terror perfectly encapsulated when Beerus erased Zamasu. There was no battle. There was no beam struggle. Zamasu was immortal. He was a god in his own right. He had plans and power that threatened the multiverse. Beerus didn't care. He caught Zamasu's hand, and the look on the Supreme Kai's face said everything. It was the look of someone watching an execution. Beerus spoke the word, and Zamasu dissolved into purple dust. It was clinical, it was precise, and it was absolute. This power creates a psychological barrier that Goku cannot overcome with punches. Goku fights to protect life. He fights to test his limits. Beerus fights to maintain balance through destruction. Their fundamental philosophies are incompatible, yet Beerus holds the trump card of absolute erasure. Even if Goku were to somehow match Beerus in raw kinetic energy, he has no counter to the concept of non-existence. This brings us to the recent developments in the manga regarding Black Frieza and the hierarchy of the gods. Frieza is arguably the smartest character in the series. During the Tournament of Power, while Goku was too stupid to look up and Vegeta was too distracted, Frieza likely noticed the terrifying truth. He saw that while the universes were being erased, the angels were smiling. They were indifferent. Frieza likely realized that the Grand Priest holds the true power and that the gods of destruction are just middle management. This deductive reasoning is the only logical explanation for why he trained for 10 years. He realized that the title of Emperor of the Universe is meaningless if the Omni King can erase you with a snap of his fingers. Frieza doesn't just want to be a king anymore, he wants to be a god slayer. This context is crucial because it highlights just how high the mountain really is. Frieza, the character with the most potential and the most arrogance, is terrified of the system Beerus represents. He is building an army and sparing Goku and Vegeta because he needs meat shields for the coming war. He knows he cannot do it alone. If Black Frieza, who one-shotted Ultra Instinct Goku and Ultra Ego Vegeta effortlessly, is terrified of the divine hierarchy, what chance does Goku really have? Most fans look at the progression of Ultra Instinct and assume that Goku is closing the gap. They see the silver hair and the dodge mechanics and think that Goku is nearing the level of the gods. This is a fundamental misunderstanding of what Beerus represents. Beerus is not a martial artist. He is a force of entropy. Goku is mastering Ultra Instinct, the technique of the angels. Vegeta is mastering Ultra Ego, the technique of the destroyers. By relying on these forms, they are effectively becoming servants of the system. They are learning the martial arts that Beerus and Whis have known for eons. It is like a student trying to beat their professor using the textbook the professor wrote. Beerus knows the flaws of Ultra Ego because he has mastered the power of destruction. He knows the weaknesses of Ultra Instinct because he lives with an angel. Frieza likely realized this trap, which is why he sought a power source or a technique that exists outside of the divine hierarchy. Goku, however, is diving deeper into that hierarchy. He is trying to perfect a state of being that Beerus has lived in for millions of years. The experience gap is insurmountable. Goku has been fighting for maybe 40 years. Beerus has been destroying for hundreds of millions. That is not a gap you close with a Zenkai boost. That is a gap that defines the difference between a mortal and an eternal being. We also have to talk about the visual language of their relationship. In almost every major arc of Dragon Ball Super, Beerus is present, but he is usually sitting on the sidelines eating pizza or drinking tea. He watches Goku and Vegeta fight for their lives against Golden Frieza hit Goku Black and Jiren. He watches them break their bodies and scream until their vocal cords tear, and he looks bored. Occasionally he looks impressed, but it is the kind of impressed a parent feels when their toddler draws a decent stick figure. It is patronizing. This visual framing reinforces the idea that no matter how high Goku climbs, Beerus is always watching from a luxury box seats above the arena. Goku is the gladiator sweating and bleeding in the dirt. Beerus is the emperor in the stands. The gladiator can become the champion of the arena. He can kill all the lions and all the other gladiators. But he can never go up into the stands and dethrone the emperor. The structure of the world forbids it. Even Frieza understands this structure, which is why he hates it so much. Frieza hates being looked down upon and hates servitude. He refuses to live in a universe where a purple cat can tell him what to do. But Goku doesn't have that hatred. Goku accepts the structure. He accepts Beerus as a teacher and a superior. You cannot overthrow a king you are actively trying to impress. There is a terrifying possibility that Beerus is waiting for the precise moment when he is no longer needed, but that moment never comes. We know that if a Supreme Kai dies, the god of destruction dies. Frieza knows this and likely plans to exploit it, but in a straight fight, Beerus is protected by the narrative itself. The writers are protecting Beerus. They are keeping him in a glass case labeled break in case of emergency. Why? Because if Goku beats Beerus, the story ends. The tension of the series relies on the existence of a higher power. If Goku becomes the strongest being in the multiverse, effectively surpassing the gods, then there is no more mystery. There is no more fear. Beerus represents the horizon. You can walk towards the horizon forever. You can travel thousands of miles. You can feel like you are getting closer. But the horizon will always remain at the exact same distance away from you. That is his narrative function. He is the goal that must never be reached. Comparing this to the Black Frieza situation creates a fascinating contrast. Black Frieza is the weapon created to shatter the ceiling that is Beerus. Frieza wants to break the game. Goku just wants to play it. Consider the sleep metaphor again in the context of Frieza's 10 years of silence. Frieza spent a decade alone in a void to master his patience and kill his bratty nature. He emerged calm, speaking softly. This was character growth. But Beerus has been calm for eternity. He sleeps for decades not to train, but because existence is tedious. This ennui is his armor. A character who cares about winning can be baited. They can be frustrated. Frieza lost on Namek because he was entitled. He lost on Earth the first time because he rushed. Emotions are weaknesses. Beerus has almost no emotional investment in the outcome of any battle. If he wins, he goes back to sleep. If he were to lose, which is theoretically impossible, he would probably just be relieved that his job is over. How do you defeat a man who doesn't care if he wins or loses? How do you break the spirit of someone whose spirit is already detached from the material plane? You can't. Goku relies on breaking his opponent's will. He made Frieza beg. He made Kid Buu hesitate. He made Jiren doubt his philosophy. He cannot do that to Beerus because Beerus has no philosophy to break. He is simply doing a job. It is nothing personal. It is just business. Furthermore, we have to consider the Zero Gods plan theory that Frieza is likely constructing. Frieza wants to kill the hierarchy. He wants to remove the angels and the destroyers so he can rule without a ceiling. Beerus is the ceiling. Frieza is arguably banking on the fact that when the time comes to fight the gods, the Saiyans will side with him to protect their universe. He views Goku and Vegeta as tools to be used against the Grand Priest. This implies that Frieza sees the gods not just as powerful fighters, but as an institutional threat that requires a multiverse-wide revolution to dismantle. Goku, on the other hand, views Beerus as a sparring partner. This difference in perspective is lethal. Goku is playing checkers while Beerus and Frieza are playing 4D chess. Goku thinks the goal is to get stronger. Beerus knows the goal is to maintain the balance of existence. You cannot beat the person who writes the rules of the game you are playing. There is also the matter of black symbolism. We know that in Dragon Ball color theory is essential. Black Frieza uses the color of the void representing authority and mystery. He is a mortal wearing the colors of a god to enforce his mortal will. Beerus, however, is purple. In many cultures, purple is the color of royalty, but in Dragon Ball, it is the color of corruption and destruction energy. It is the color of the energy that erases Zamasu. While Frieza is trying to claim authority by turning black, Beerus was born into authority. He doesn't need to change his color to prove a point. He doesn't need to transform. This is another key distinction. Goku has Super Saiyan 1, 2, 3 God Blue and UI. Frieza has 4 or 5 forms. Beerus has 1. He does not transform, he does not power up, he simply exerts more effort. This lack of transformation implies a lack of limits. A transformation is a container for power. When you fill the container, you need a new one. Beerus has no container. His power is a bottomless well. We have never seen his 100% because 100% of infinity is a meaningless concept. The psychological dominance Beerus exerts is absolute. When Black Frieza appeared on Serial, he exerted a pressure described as heavy like gravity. He asserted dominance by one-shotting the heroes. But when Beerus asserts dominance, he does it with presence. He walks into a room and the music stops. Vegeta, the prince of all Saiyans, the man who refused to kneel to Frieza, cast aside his pride and cooked takoyaki for Beerus. He danced on stage. He debased himself completely. Why? Because Vegeta understood what Goku didn't. Vegeta understood that Frieza is a monster but Beerus is a calamity. You fight monsters, you survive calamities. Vegeta's fear was primal. It was the genetic memory of a species recognizing its extinction event. Goku lacks that fear gene, which makes him brave, but it also makes him foolish. He treats Beerus like a buddy. He slaps him on the back. He calls him by his name without honorifics. This lack of reverence shields Goku from the terror, but it also blinds him to the reality of the gap between them. He thinks they are peers. They are not. One is a biological organism. The other is a universal constant. Let's look deeper into the future implications. We know that End of Z is still canon and Goku is alive and happy training Oob. This implies Goku survives whatever war is coming. But it also implies he never takes Beerus's job. He is still on Earth. He is still a martial artist. This means he never surpasses Beerus in a way that matters. If he did, the universe would look very different. The status quo remains because Beerus remains. Frieza is trying to change that status quo. Frieza wants to be the one who stands above the rest. He spared Goku and Vegeta because he needs their chaos to draw fire while he executes his master plan. He acts like a disappointed coach waiting for them to catch up. But Beerus is not a coach. He is a wall. A wall does not care if you run into it. It does not care if you break your hand punching it. It just stands there. Ultimately, Beerus represents the one thing shonen anime protagonists are not allowed to face: the absolute limit. The genre is built on the idea that if you scream loud enough and train hard enough, you can do anything. Beerus is the antithesis of that trope. He is the reminder that there is a hierarchy to existence and that some beings are simply above others. Goku can surpass Krillin. He can surpass Vegeta. He can surpass Frieza. He can even surpass the angels in technique. But he cannot surpass the concept of destruction. Beerus is the anchor that keeps the Dragon Ball universe from floating away into total absurdity. He grounds the series in a harsh reality. There are gods and there are mortals, and the line between them is drawn in blood. Goku can cross that line, but he can never erase it. When we look at the future of Dragon Ball, we see Black Frieza preparing for a war against the gods, likely using the Saiyans as pawns in his game against the multiverse. We see mortals pushing the boundaries of what is possible. But looming over all of it is the silhouette of the Destroyer. Silent, watchful, and bored, Goku will continue to get stronger. He will unlock new forms. He will dye his hair every color in the spectrum, but he will never defeat Beerus. Because the moment he does, Dragon Ball ceases to be a story about a martial artist testing his limits and becomes a story about a god ruling a universe he no longer understands. Beerus is the necessary evil. He is the darkness that gives the light meaning. And for that reason, he will always remain the one mountain Goku cannot climb. He is not a villain to be conquered. He is the end of the road, and the road goes on forever.